In the studio this morning from the Monmouth Fire Department, we do have Chief Casey Rexroat. Good morning, Chief.
Good morning.
We also have newly promoted Assistant Chief Craig Cozadd. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you both?
Doing good.
Fantastic.
Good. Let's talk about last night's promotions. Then we'll get into some of this heat discussion. Chief?
Okay. So last night we actually had a couple promotions at the fire department. And what prompted these promotions was we had an assistant chief that's been in the department, is Josh Hinton. He's been on the department for almost 23 years. Had a very nice long career at our department. We're very happy for him. He decided to recently just to retire. And so very happy for Josh. We wish him all the best. We hope to have the opportunity to honor him sometime in the near future too. But when Josh Hinton excuse me, there was somebody outside created a diversion out there.
Semi about took out a car on the...
No, but Assistant Chief Hinton retired from the department and left a vacancy in that position. And so Craig Cozadd was next on the list to be promoted. So last night at the meeting, we promoted Craig Cozadd to the assistant chief. And then when he was moved up, we needed somebody to take his spot as a captain, and Gary Carson was next on the list for that. So we promoted Gary Carson to captain too.
Okay, well, congratulations. First of all, Assistant Chief Cozadd.
Thank you.
What does a promotion like this mean to you?
A lot. I've been a captain for 11 years, and I've worked towards this goal, both through testing and classes that I've taken and training for the last many years, actually, preparing for it. So I'm definitely ready to take on the task. I'm the shift commander for the gold shift, or shift 3 as we call it, at the station, and so I'll be in charge of day-to-day operations of that shift and all those things, command at fires, those types of things. Also, a shout out to Gary, who's the new captain. We worked together basically the entire time that I was a captain. He was directly under me at Station 2, so I know that he's more than qualified to take over the captain's spot as well. So I think we're looking really good for the future as far as the leadership goes, and heading in a really good direction, so we're pretty pumped about it.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about Captain Gary Carson, Chief.
Gary's he's been on the department for about 10 years, I'm going to say.
A little more, maybe 11, yeah. Close to that.
But comes from the Alexis Gerlaw area. He's been on their department for a long time, upper level management over there too. And so very happy for Gary. I know he'll do excellent in that position.
Okay. I got choked up there. Sorry.
Well, it's an emotional story. Whenever we talk about Gary, we all get choked up.
Goodness, I was going to ask a question and then thought of another question, but we've had 2 diversions this morning.
We'll get through it, trust me.
We will. So congratulations to Captain Gary Carson and also to you, Assistant Chief Craig Cozadd. So exciting stuff, and we've also hired some new firemen here in the past, so we're looking for that next round of young people to develop into future leaders.
Yeah. And actually, I wanted to point out that this month marks a few anniversaries at the department. Devin Wade is actually celebrating his whole year at the department. He comes from the Little York area. He's been on their volunteer fire department for a long time. He joined last year with us, and he's finishing up his first year at our department right now. We also have Ralph Peeler, who's been on the department for 19 years this month. He had quite more experience before he even came to our department, so I don't know how many years Ralph has
30 plus
with the
sure,
fire service, but he's been with it a long time. And along with that, Brian Moorfield is finishing up 25 years at our department right now. And so they are on the same shift together. Actually, Ralph and Brian, there's a tremendous amount of knowledge on that and experience coming from that shift. So very happy for those guys.
Okay, fantastic. Let's talk about your call volumes. I know you usually do your reports. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we've had an increase that we were talking about before the show started here. Show, that's good. We got a show. But we've seen an increase in calls in general, and I've talked about this before, but the majority of our calls, 70%-ish, are medical calls, which we assist GHOS with, the ambulance, and more and more often, it seems like it happened twice yesterday, as a matter of fact, that we're getting simultaneous calls, so we'll have one call drop, and then just a couple minutes later, a second call will drop, so we've been just really busy in that regard. No particular reason. There's just a variety of calls. We had a traffic accident yesterday and then a medical call, so they're not any, there's nothing to worry about as far as any epidemic, but it's just an increase, and I think that's the way across the nation. I can't really explain it, but we had 1,666 calls last year. We're almost at 1,200 now. So just running on that pace, we're probably looking at 1,800 calls this year or more, depending on what happens. So it just keeps growing every year, and every year it's gone up exponentially. We stayed at the same amount for a long time, 1,100, 1,200 calls a year, and then it's just exploded. So, and that, like I said, I hear a lot of places are understaffed and overworked, and then it's just the nature of the job, I guess.
And some of our rural areas in Illinois, and not just here in Illinois, are experiencing a lack of volunteers. So that's going to be a challenge for their ambulatory services and first responders. So, and a lot of people have moved from rural areas, so it's not as
recruitment and retention has been a problem for volunteer services for quite a while now, and they've actually, the Illinois fire chiefs, and I know the unions have been trying to figure out ways to recruit new volunteer firefighters and retain them once they get on there. And a lot of the issue that they have is they, like you said, they don't work in the town where they live, so there might be people, just for example, in Roseville that volunteer in Roseville, but they maybe work in Monmouth or Galesburg or something, and so they're not actually around town during the day. And so, if I would urge people that if you're around and you're able to do it, go volunteer at your local fire department. They definitely, I'm sure they would accept the help, and they'd love to have you. So, the more the merrier.
What goes into being a volunteer? And you work in concert with our rural volunteer fire departments.
Yeah, we rely heavily on our volunteers in the area because we're the only career department in the county, obviously. So, and when we have something big going on, we call these other departments around us for assistance, and vice versa. They call us when they need help, and so. It's very important to have that those volunteers and those bolster those departments to make sure that they have the number of people to be able to go and put a fire out safely. They talk about with the NFPA. I know it's not the most ideal for everybody. They talk about like 17 firefighters is the best number to respond to a structure fire, which we have 15 people, 16 people in our department, and so we don't even meet that with the numbers we have. So we have to call these other people in. And, especially you get a day like today where it's people are going to start wearing out really fast and becoming dehydrated. So we need to start recycling people out to get them hydrated and rested and worked back in. So it definitely helps to have the more people, the better we can do.
Okay. All right. Also, Assistant Chief Cozadd, tell us about this week. We have many, many warnings. 117 is that's pretty good heat index. That's something we don't see a lot. 105. Yeah, we do here in Illinois, but reading the weather the last decade or so, 117's been there, done that.
It's the real deal.
Summer,
yeah.
Would it be different if it was the dry heat? I always hear people say that.
Well, it's the same heat as
it's hot
as Arkansas, and I did that 117 this summer, and it's just downright.
Yeah, that's
it's like
miserable.
walking out into an oven.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have of course we have heat exhaustion, heat stroke calls on the EMS side, and we. I love fighting fires. The firefighters do, as much as, it brings problems for people. It's why we do the job. We love doing it, but we do not want to do it when it's like this, and it's because it's miserable. And so one of the big things, obviously, just talking about that, to try to avoid it is if you can, and I know there are laborers out there,
right.
Construction, things like that, road construction, whatever, and they have to work through this stuff. Obviously, if you're out in it and you have to, is cover yourself up. With they wear a lot of times big hats, things like that. Shade you can create. Hydration is the number one thing you can do. Though it's hydration, and I'm talking water. Water is your number one friend when it comes to hydration. Gatorade's okay, but you can even overdo that because it has a lot of sugars in it and stuff like that. If you're not drinking the non-sugar Gatorade. So back when I used to roof years ago, we would mix it 50-50 with water just to cut some of that down. But if you got to be out on hydration, obviously if you don't have to be on it, don't be. Especially in the heat of the day. If you have things to do, if you can, obviously, 6 to 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, and then in the evening hours, like mowing your yard, things like that, if you can wait to do it until the evening or first thing in the morning, anything you have to do outside, do it that time. If you have air conditioning, obviously utilize that. Fans, talk about covering your windows because a lot of heat comes through the windows. Pull the shades, keep your house cool. And of course, then you get into the equipment, working harder, AC units, attic vent fans, things like that. And that's where we get involved. A lot of times they will overheat. If they're running excessively, we'll have problems with that sometimes. And, and if you usually run, like I usually run my AC 68 because I like it cool, but you might bump it up a few degrees because it's not going to be able to keep up anyway, generally, if, so maybe run it at like 72 or something because it's still a substantial temperature difference from outside, so you'll get that relief from it, and then your unit hopefully won't be working quite as hard. But just things like that, it's the biggest thing is to just drink water like crazy. I mean, it really is the biggest thing. We try to push that, the fire department, and guys will carry around water bottles with them all day long, just constantly drinking the water because we have to stay hydrated because we don't know when we're going to get a fire. So we can't just, you can't start after the fact. It's too late then. So you got to pre-hydrate. So
what are signs of heat exhaustion or heat stroke?
Heat exhaustion is the first side of it. Heat stroke's more serious. A lot of, obviously, excessive sweating, just general fatigue for heat exhaustion, some nausea, things like that. I think a lot of people have probably had some form of that or felt that way at some point. Heat stroke's a lot more serious. Usually they'll stop sweating because they're not hydrated, and they can become unresponsive, confused, combative. So those are the signs you look for. But if you're feeling any of that, obviously, go to the emergency department or call an ambulance or whatever. We can come check you out if nothing else, or transport. And but again, it happens to people, and like I said, it could be anybody. We've had all different ages that have experienced it, and I know the schools are back in now with sports and stuff, and it's just it could happen to anybody. So just again, those are things to look for.
Okay. Luckily on Friday night, it will be much better for
Yes.
Friday night football.
Sounds
We won't have that
perfect.
excessive heat on Friday. So not that makes it any better in practice this week, but at
It's
least
something to look forward to, I think.
yeah.
For sure.
Okay. Anything else from the Monmouth Fire Department?
I will touch on this. We just finished our grain bin ops class the last 2 weekends, and what that is a rescue class that we've been talking about this for probably almost 2 years now. I think trying to get it worked in. And we had 28 students, I believe, and I was one of them. Along with like 6 other guys from Monmouth. We had a bunch of guys from Roseville. Central Warren had a few in there, and then there's guys far ways over by Streeter had come to this class to attend. But basically, it's dealing with the operations level of if somebody becomes entrapped in a grain bin. Obviously, in the city of Monmouth, we don't have a lot, but we have some on the outskirts here with Big River and places like that. But every farm around here has grain bin operations, and we're trained to the level of being able to go in and make a rescue on a person has become entrapped in the grain, which isn't ultra common, but it's extremely serious when it does happen. So there's a lot of rope systems that are involved with this, and elevated systems, things like that, harnesses and all that kind of stuff that you just can't do on your own. Because it's incredibly dangerous as far as in cutting the bins and getting the grain out of the bins to get to the person that's trapped. And the beautiful part about it is like I said, the area people around here are all connected to it. And when we respond, for instance, if Roseville calls us, we know that they've been trained to our level as well. The one thing that we have that other departments don't have is we have a rope trailer, and we've talked about that before, that Tyler Osborne has had a substantial amount of work put into, and we have the best equipment. And anything that they threw at us over the weekends, they're like, we have this or this, we have it on that trailer. And so when we respond, we'll have the equipment, we know how to set it up, and then they know how to work with us because they also have had the training. And so as a group, we can they're not just like, oh, you guys have to do everything. It's like, because it takes a lot of people to set this stuff up. I think we had one class when we were setting up the operations, it was like almost everybody was involved with it, setting it up. So we're very, very pleased to get that done and have it done. And like I said, everybody now we have many guys in the department around that are trained. So hopefully we don't need it, but if we do, we're ready.
Right. Yep. And speaking of people outdoors, farmers will be in this weather.
For sure.
Outdoors, so be careful, farmers and livestock, pets, all that stuff going to be happening.
Yep.
So.
Oh yeah, one other thing. Speaking of pets, is obviously don't leave your pets in a car. Very passionate about pets for one thing, but. We were walking through Walmart parking lot the other day, and my wife saw a dog in the car. She's like, the dog's in the car. And they had the AC running, the car running. And I was like, that dog's living his best life in that car right now. But yeah, people, pets, and cars, this heat, absolutely not. It can't even, for not even 30 seconds. So.
Oh, just think about when you open your car door and you get inside.
The heat temperatures in there are ridiculous. Yeah. So, yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming in this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congrats on the promotions.
Thank you so much.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
That is our Monmouth Fire Department with us, Assistant Chief Craig Cozadd, Chief Casey Rexroat.